And we're live. Happy Friday, everybody. December 30th. Where has the year gone? 2022. It's done. It's over. We're going into 2023 starting on Sunday, if I can do my math right, in the United States at least. Thank you very much for joining us today. Make sure you can hear us. Make sure you can see us okay. Today, I'm joined by Noah and Remo. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Lots to talk about. We'll spend about an hour to an hour and a half discussing just our thoughts and everything that's going on in the Tesla world, Elon world, Twitter world, whatever else comes up. And then after we're done, we'll go over to my private Discord server that you can also join if you become a patron or YouTube subscriber, right, with the links below in the description. Noah and Remo are both members of my little community that's just growing, and it's so awesome because we have the best discussions ever on that Discord. So if you want to be part of it, consider, and you'll be part of these panels as well. Noah and Remo, how are you guys doing? Noah, we'll start with you. How you doing, buddy?
Life's great, man. Yeah, I just got back from El Paso. I was one of the many people who were affected by flights. So like Southwest apparently had like 2,800 flights that got canceled over the break. And so we ended up driving like the 12 and a half hours back. Yeah, so that was fun, but I'm back safe and sound in California and things are good. So yeah.
Awesome. Good to hear. How you doing, Remo?
Yeah, really good. Really chill. Spent some time with the family and really took some time off work and really did nothing the past couple of days. Was fantastic.
Sounds amazing. Doing nothing is sometimes the best thing ever. That's awesome. Cool. So let's go ahead and get started with the first topic. So Noah put together. He went to the what's the museum called again?
Peterson. Yeah.
Peterson. Thank you. So he went to the Peterson Museum where there is a showcase for Tesla and Tesla's vehicles, and lo and behold, the Cybertruck's there. In case you guys didn't know, and he tweeted out some pictures that I want to start with because I think it gives a little bit of context into what the Cybertruck actually is going to be. And let's not forget that this thing supposedly, if you take Tesla to their word, this thing's launching in 6 to 9 months. It's going to start hitting the streets here in Austin, Texas. So nobody's talking about it. So let's go ahead and come up. Let's pull up some of the pictures there, producer wife, if you don't mind. So that's what it looks like. Noah for scale. There's the Cybertruck. I've seen it in person a couple of times. It looks freaking killer in person. It really is. But more importantly, Noah did something that's very, very useful, which is, if you go to the next picture, he took dimensions of the bed using augmented reality technology, y'all. It's 2023 almost, okay? So this is, I'm assuming that's the ruler app on the iPhone, right, that you use to track
exactly.
it. Yeah, exactly. So what are the things that stood out when you're standing next to this bed? Because you own a pickup truck as well, right? You use it for work. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a F-150, I had a Ford Ranger before that, and now I have a Ram 1500. So the thing that stuck out the most to me was the wheel wells inside. Obviously, we already knew that ahead of time, but I was like super curious if the dimensions between the two sides were going to be compromised, so it says 411. So I measured it twice, but roughly about 5 feet from wheel to wheel, so to speak, on the inside of the bed. And then from front to back, it's roughly like 6'2", 6'5", somewhere in that range as far as like the size of the bed. So I was pleasantly surprised, and something I've been like waiting to learn about for the Cybertruck was the size of the bed. And then also obviously there's like the tonneau cover type thing and the like triangular sloped back. So I was kind of curious to see. There's not a measurement on this one, but I took another one where the back is about 22 to 24 inches. And then the front part where the back seats are in the truck, that's about 3 feet or like 33 inches or so. So you can kind of get a picture or an idea of what those look like. I was also curious about the ramp itself. So I took some measurements around what the ramp looks like. So the tailgate itself is roughly 25, 26 inches. And then the foldable ramp that comes out of the tailgate, it's an extra like 3 feet, 3 inches or so, somewhere in that ballpark. So these measurements aren't going to be like perfect to the T. It's probably good to like 2 or 3 inches, roughly, because each measurement was slightly different, but at least it gives you a ballpark of what those numbers look like.
That's very helpful information. So I think having it in person. So like I see the bed in one picture 6.5 feet or 6.5 or 6 feet 5 inches. This one's 6 feet 7 inches. Apologies to our metric system viewers. I'm sure you want to rip your hair out of your head, but sorry, this is America, baby. But 6 feet 7 inches. So if you compare it, you own. I'm sorry. What pickup truck do you own right now?
Right now, it's the Ram 1500.
Okay, it's a F-150, what, a crew cab equivalent, kind of?
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I wonder if I took it out, but I have, yeah, basically it's a crew cab, meaning there's four full doors, and the back seats and the front seats are roughly the same size, which is also true about the Cybertruck. And the Cybertruck actually looks like there's a few extra inches in both areas, which is awesome too. So I think generally speaking, there's more room overall. But yeah.
Got it. And then that area, so if we go all the way towards the back of the bed, it looks like it's slanted. Sorry, if you can go
Yes.
back to that picture again.
I
Perfect.
noticed that too. Yeah, like
Yeah.
right. So basically, if you think of the back chairs in the Cybertruck, there's that wall right behind it. That's what Farzad's talking about right now. And
Yeah.
there is a slight angle. I don't know
Like
what the
how
angle
is it,
there.
like 6 inches? That's depth, something like that? Okay.
Yeah, I would say maybe 4 to 6 inches of a slope that goes kind of towards the front of the truck. So basically, there's a little couple extra inches there that isn't standard in a truck. Usually, that's just flat. So that's something I've never heard talked about before. That little angle there. Yeah, that's super interesting.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm assuming that they're probably using that to say if you want to put in like I don't know, like 2x4s or something that are really long, you get the additional 6 inches of clearance on the bottom. You can also do what like plywood and these like flat sheet of wood and whatnot. It's probably useful for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Remo, oh sorry, go ahead.
Oh no,
didn't
no,
wanna
I was going to
interrupt
say
you.
if you leave the tailgate down, you could fit a full sheet of plywood 4 foot by 8 in the U.S.
Okay.
And without having to leave the tailgate at an angle or anything funky, which is good. So
Remo, is this something that you're looking forward to? So you live in Basel in Switzerland. Is this something that you're looking forward to in that area? Do people even talk about the Cybertruck? Like what's the deal?
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a completely new design. I think people in Europe would be super excited about it. Of course, the dimensions I think are a little too big for our streets and parking spaces. So probably it would have to be a little smaller version. But what I'm really excited about, I saw some mock-ups of add-ons for the Cybertruck. So that's what I wanted to ask you guys. So what do you think will be Tesla's strategy for all these, like camper add-ons, etc.? Do you think that Tesla will insource these over time, or will it create a third-party markets like we have for the Model 3Y, etc.? What do you think? Because I think there will be some really exciting add-ons possibilities for the Cybertruck, and that's what I'm personally super excited about.
Go for it, Noah, because you're probably this
Sure.
is more in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, so for me, I think the add-ons is its own industry. And so if you look at the truck market currently, there are companies who basically just specialize in additions to customizing your truck, like whether it's something to do with the bed or towing or, lights or tie downs. Like there's all these like specialty items that go into your truck, and like every truck owner uses their truck slightly differently, right? So with my truck, I tow a toy hauler, which basically is a camper, and I can actually show a picture of that on my screen here. But basically, this toy hauler is what I pull around with me with my equipment for filming and stuff. And so that's a little bit different than like somebody else who might just use it for occasional, like going around the town or what have you. But yeah, there's a picture of my old truck here. So yeah, all that to preface is that I don't necessarily think Tesla will want to or need to build all of those accessories, because there's already companies out there doing that, and because they want to stay so vertically integrated. I don't know if they would. I think it would be more than what would be worth it for them to do that. Especially, I wonder percentage wise, what percentage of truck owners own campers or these awesome accessories. But to your point, I'm super excited to hear and see like the campers and the showers and the things that they're coming up with, like the portable cooking stations. So those are all of interest to me, but I don't know if Tesla will necessarily build those.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with you. I think it's going to be something similar to what Apple's doing with like their third party sort of folks, where there's a bunch of accessories and this whole industry has sort of appeared around. And we lost Ramo. I think he's there's something going on with his camera. He's looking into it. The there's an entire third party thing that has appeared around the product, and I feel like Cybertruck's gonna bring a lot of that forward as well, because the possibilities are endless with this damn thing. They really are, and it's hard to conceptualize. Yeah, here's some examples of it. So these are some mock-ups, and these aren't actual companies that have made these things yet, but there are examples like, campers. You have that sort of crazy looking thing above it that's like an extension. Yeah, you got that cool little kitchen area that can come out, very similar to the Rivian R1T, right? Or the R1S, excuse me, the pickup truck. Uh, there's going to be a third party industry that's going to appear to facilitate a lot of these things. And I'm wondering, like, what are going to be the most useful use cases for this? Because for folks that are more outdoorsy, this is a killer product for them. And I feel like there's going to be an entire industry that's going to come up around that concept. But there could also be things like, there's that one with the boat. What the hell is that thing? Go on the bottom right, producer wife, look at that thing. The hell is that? So you can technically do that with any car, I guess. But yeah, I think the blank slate, it's like designed to be a blank slate. Just even with the exterior that it has no paint, it's already a blank slate. So I wonder how many things around it are also going to be a blank slate. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it was fun when I was in the Peterson Museum. Like, we walked around and saw the whole Tesla exhibit, and I saw a lot of things. And then there was also like the history of some cars, or how cars were made. And the first car was like in 1797, which was a steam powered car. So like stuff like that I didn't know about. And then obviously there was the early electric cars in the early 1900s, and how they're kind of comparing between the gas cars and the electric cars. And the electric cars at the time, they're heavier and more expensive. And so when the crank style starter for the gas cars went away and the electric starter came into play, that's what really pushed it over, apparently, towards gas at the time. But so all those little nuggets were fun to learn. But as far as like the Tesla exhibit, I sat down in front of the Cybertruck with my wife for probably a half hour, and then we came back around and sat down again for another half hour. And it was fun to just hear people ask questions of like, oh, is that a real thing? Oh, is that going to get painted? Oh, like all the things that like I had answers for, and I was like, maybe I should pretend I work for Tesla and like answer all these questions for people. But no, it was just really fun to see like the common perception of that truck. And like there were people from all around the world that were speaking like Hindu and German and English, obviously. And there's all these different languages that I heard, all these different people from around the world that came to see like that Cybertruck, which to me was just like super exciting and super meaningful to me in that time, because I was like, yes, I'm excited for this. They're excited for this. Like it was super cool to see that.
What percentage of the people that were there did you gauge were Tesla fans, and what percentage, like say like our community where like we know we live and breathe these things, and what percentage were just like folks passing by checking out what was going on? Did you get a gauge?
That's a great question. There were so many people, like, because it's a huge museum for cars. I think they have over 200 cars there. So within the Tesla area, the Tesla exhibit, which used to be the James Bond exhibit, by the way, I would say maybe 20% of them were Tesla fans. And what I saw over and over again were one or two like Tesla fanboys or fangirls with their families and with other people, of like answering their group's questions about it. And some of them were accurate and some of them weren't, but I held my tongue. And then most other people, like I would say most of the people who came through, like there were a good chunk of them who were just like stunned that this was this is a real thing. Like they're actually going to make this. Like they might have heard about it or heard of Elon, but they didn't really conceptualize that like it's happening. Like it's happening next year, and it's coming along. But as far as like the rest of the museum, there's I would say the Tesla exhibit is maybe a 10th of the whole Peterson Museum. And so there's obviously people all over the place looking at hypercars and historical cars and all that kind of fun stuff too. So
okay, got it. So 80%. So there are other cars and other things at the museum, and there's also just the Tesla part that people go and check out.
Exactly.
Which car was getting the most attention?
Definitely the Cybertruck. Like within, actually across the whole museum, I think there was one time where the DeLorean, which was the picture car for the Back to the Future series, they were cleaning that, so there was a lot of attention around that cleaning process. But other than that, I would definitely say the Cybertruck. To me, like, because I spent the most time there, but also I walked around the museum. That one was the display slash car that like most people were taking photos at, or like looking at, or spending time at, for sure.
Yeah, that's really that's telling for me, and for a few reasons. One, I think that how different the car is, it's starting to be digested by the population, and it's starting to become a thing where it's like, oh shit, this is actually real. This is a thing that exists. But the other side of it too is that it's in the same price category as literally any other pickup truck that it's going up against. So this is not like a, oh my God, look at how crazy looking this thing is, and how like, oh my God, this thing must be $500,000. Like it's very unique. Like, right, when you feel something's very unique and special, you feel like, oh, it's probably very expensive. But it's being built so that it's not, that it's the opposite, that it's extremely affordable for what it does. People don't get this. I feel like that's super profound and wild. Did you get that? Like, I've seen it a couple of times in person. That was the sense I was getting. It's like, holy crap! Like the disconnect between affordability and how unique it is. It's I don't think it's being processed. And imagine what this does for the rest of the Tesla brand. Is that the sense you were getting? And I don't want to like bias you to respond a certain way, but like that's the sense I always get when I look at the damn thing. And Rem, I would love to hear your thoughts too.
Yes, 100%. I think people were just shocked at what they saw. At least a lot of people were, that I noticed. My favorite moment was like sitting down with my wife, and like in the back of my head, I had that preconceived idea too of like, this is a game changer, and I love it. And she hasn't liked it. Like she hasn't liked the look of it. And so my hope was like she was going to tell me that it looked better in person. And so I was like kind of slow to play it, and it was like, so what do you think? She was like, it looks better than I thought it would. I was like, yes. So that was a big win. And then like, I was like, as we were talking, I was just like, so what do you think? And like, when we're in our 80s, or say 50 years from now, 70 years from now, like, do you think people will look back at this car and see it as like a historical marker, And she was like, I think people will look at it and be like, wow, they were trying to be really futuristic. So I think she had a slightly different opinion than me, which was like, no, this was like the car that's going to pivot the whole industry, like to a different kind of way of thinking and a way of designing cars. And to her, it was like, they're still trying to be futuristic. To her, she was like, are like, even though she knows I'm a huge Tesla fan, and like we've talked about Tesla for years now, she's like, I'm kind of doubting at this point if they're going to make it, is basically what she said. And I'm sorry if my wife ever watches this and she knows I'm putting her on the spot for all this, but
you're on the spot.
But I mean, I was like, good. I'm actually, because what you're saying is probably what a lot of people are thinking. And right now that's good for us and for me, because I'm going to keep buying Tesla stock. And I still have faith that Tesla's going to come through and this is going to happen. Like the gigapresses are already in Austin, guys. Come on.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. What do you think, Remo?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think this will be like a huge catalyst for the next year. And I think like the general public that's not really into Tesla, I just don't think they have the Cybertruck on their radar just now, because they think, yeah, it was such a thing that was announced years ago. Like the Semi, it took 5 years, and like FSD, it took forever, and stuff like that. So I think it's really like sandbagged, and we know that Tesla will deliver it, and it will be an absolute smashing success. And now we have more details, like with the megawatt charging capacity and stuff like that, will be absolute a killer product. But of course, there will be hiccups with getting to volume production. It's a completely new production system. I think we also need to be realistic, but I think as far as the product goes, it will be an absolute revolution. And I'm sure there will be a lot of copycats. So it will set like a new standard for as a category. And yeah, also the price. I mean, I just tried to look up now the website. The price that they announced initially was absolutely mind-boggling. If they could really achieve that, I don't know whether you guys have any new insight how the prices have developed. I didn't kept track of it recently. Whether they will be able, or I think they took down the prices from the websites, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so there
if
was
they could, but if they could match it somehow, or just a little bit more expensive than they thought, I think, yeah, the price to value will be absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, I agree 100%. R2, thank you so much. Thanks. Great show. I appreciate reasonable discussion. Keep up with the great info. Thank you very much. The beer fund keeps growing, y'all. When I see you guys in person, I'm going to get you so drunk. We'll have a huge beer fund now. Thank you all very much for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. There was a comment, I believe this was at the yearly investor meeting in July of this year, where the question came up about, hey, is Cybertruck going to be I forget what the model was. I'm 100% sure it's the Cybertruck. People in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. The question came up, hey, are you still going to be able to do that $40,000 Cybertruck? And Elon said something to the effect of a lot has happened between now and then, and so it's very likely that the price is going to be higher. But the question becomes is like, how much higher though? How much higher? But more importantly, what is the price difference between what you get with a Cybertruck and its direct competition, which is the F-150, the Ram 1500 and the Toyota, whatever the hell it's called, and all the other ones, right? That is the equation that really matters. And if you're building a car, which from my understanding, and I'm sure everyone else's understanding to follow the company, it's going to be done in such an efficient manner that the cost to build is going to be minimized to such a point that they're going to be able to really offer it with either as low pricing as humanly possible, or pricing that's going to get them to be capacity constrained and make a ton of money building it. And that's really the equation that matters here, I think, both as somebody who wants to own the car and somebody who wants to invest in the company. And so my gut tells me, I made a video about this a while ago, but my gut tells me the starting price depends how crazy deflation gets in the next couple of years because of the Fed and all this stuff. All these raw materials are going to sink quite a bit. I'm probably going to guess the starting price is going to be somewhere between 50 and 60,000. I think it's probably going to go up by 10 to 20,000 if I were to guess. But for the first year or two, they're definitely going to be selling the higher specs. So it's going to be your, tri-motor, full self-driving, craziness, 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds or whatever. And then after a year or two, they'll probably start going down the models. But think about it. If you can get a Cybertruck with dual motor with 500 miles of range for about $50,000, this opens up so many customers that it's completely mind-blowing. And then this thing fits directly into especially in the United States, which is its primary target. This thing is going to be an additional $7,500 off because all I know, from what the research I've done, it seems like the pickup trucks are going to be, I think, up to 80,000. I think it's the same as SUVs, right? If I remember correctly, up to 80,000 MSRP are going to be able to take advantage of the IRA tax credit. So you're selling into your biggest market globally for pickup trucks, and now you're going to be doing it at the lowest cost possible, and you're going to take advantage of this IRA tax credit. How is this thing not going to sell 1 million plus units per year? So then it becomes a question of building capacity for this thing. So that was a very long answer to your question, but I think price is completely irrelevant in this case because of how they're producing it, and the fact that there's going to be such incredible demand for the vehicle, in addition to being subsidized by the government. It just appears like a complete smashing success. What do you think, Noah?
I love that. At scale, and I would say what you just described to me makes sense after like a year or two worth of production. I think early on, like if they do put out models in 23 and in 24, I think they're going to have to be even more expensive than that, like 100 grand plus 120 grand. So essentially it's like the early adopters are going to pay a little bit more of a premium, and the tax incentive isn't necessarily going to benefit those folks who really want the Cybertruck the most, right? But over time, I completely agree with what Farzad just outlined, is like the tax incentive and the pricing is going to come down. And if they can do it without paint, obviously, and they can do the unibody the way they want to do it, like all these things that help bring the unit price down, that costs, for each model that they produce or whatever. So, but yeah, it's super exciting. And that's the debate, or the thing I keep going back and forth in my head is like, if I was offered a quad motor and can get it sooner, would I want to opt up to that? Or if I sticked with the tri-motor, but it was going to be an extra year and a half, like would I want to wait? Like those are hard things for me to decide on, except like that's like if money was not an option object, you know. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I have a top spec on order, you know, and I live in Austin area, and I bought the car using my employee email when I worked at Tesla. So theoretically, I should have like every frickin' or did I? Yeah, I totally did. Yeah. It's because it's on my other account. Yeah. So it's like everything's lined up for me, right? Fingers crossed. So we'll see how quickly I get it. But I went with the top spec because I just feel like I don't know. I feel like the bang for the buck is going to be amazing. And who doesn't want to be the flashy douche that has the Cybertruck in Austin, Texas, baby? And I get to blow everybody's doors off at every traffic light. Who doesn't want to do that? I want to do that, right? And so that's vanity and stupidity, but I'm a vain, stupid person sometimes. Yeah, so I'm going for the top spec for sure. If for whatever reason, you know, if my wife and I sit down and think like, okay, but does it actually make sense to go with a top spec? Of course, we'll sit down and revisit. But I think for me, top spec, because I just want that. I want that really bad. What do you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, even if you bought it or took delivery and then drove it for a month and then sold it probably for a profit, like
Exactly.
I think that would be the worst case scenario for me. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think, Remo?
Yeah, what I'm really asking myself is, what do you guys think? How many units would they be realistically able to produce next year? So do you still think they would be able to start in the summer as they initially thought after ramping the Model Y? Or will there likely be a delay? What do you guys think?
No, go ahead and answer, because
Sure.
I put a poll for this on my Twitter, which has very interesting responses. So go ahead and I'll put
Awesome. Yeah. So for me, I think they will try to produce something, like, so on paper / publicity wise, they'll deliver something in the summer, whether it's like 5 Cybertrucks or something. I think they're going to run into, just like everything else, unforeseen circumstances, problems, what have you. So the amount of cars delivered in 2023, I would be impressed and happy, pleasantly surprised if there's more than, say, like 500 delivered in 2023, which is probably setting a low bar, but you know, it's new everything. And then hopefully by 2024, that's when they actually start to pick up. And then the 2024 ramp, I think, will be much steeper than most people expect, especially if they look back at 23 and be like, oh, they've only produced a handful of these, like they can't figure out their system, and there'll be all this negative press around that again. And then all of a sudden Tesla will come and blow them out of the water again. But yeah, I'm curious to see what the poll says too.
Yeah, I sent it in the private chat, producer wife. When you get a chance, I'll pull it up. So I think, thank you, perfect. So I put it out. What is it? About an hour ago now, almost. Cybertruck sold in 2023. 19% think less than 1,000 in the whole year. 36% think between 1,000 to 10,000. 27% think between 10,000 and 50,000, and 16% think over 50,000. So it's the majority, sort of, it's kind of like a perfect normal distribution, right? So in the middle, it looks like, if I were to guess, probably between 10 to 20,000, if the public is correct, is how many Cybertruck units we'll get for next year, which is actually pretty decent. My gut tells me somewhere between, I don't know, 20 to 30,000, because the one thing that is important to keep in mind is that every time Tesla has built a new car, like a new platform or a new vehicle, the time it takes from the first car being produced to ramp status has shortened every time. So Model S took the longest. Then the X, even with complexity, and it was kind of weird there in the middle, to get to full ramp, it took a little bit less time. Model 3 was way faster, and Model Y was way faster than the Model 3. And the Cybertruck is being built around the premise of as few parts as humanly possible to build this thing. So even though the size is going to be larger, you're going to take more materials to build the car as a whole, the processes are going to be much more simplified. You're going to have a lot less movements to build the car together. And you think about the optimized layout of the Gigafactory in Austin. I got to visit it. I don't know if either of you guys got to visit it, but it's optimized for just flow. You know, if you're somebody who worked in factories or in places where you have a lot of these processes in place to build and move things around, most factories, you try to optimize for reducing as many movements you can make to build a car. But this thing is just like a freaking straight line, y'all. It's like just start here and go. Boom, you're done. There's none of this like moving around. It's very similar to like how Shanghai's probably built. But it's very obvious that this thing is going to be built so fast and there's going to be so many of them coming out of that building that it's going to surprise people. So I'm on the same boat as you are, Noah, that the ramp of the products is going to be quite steep and there's going to be a lot of them coming out. But I think that the number of units when they're fully ramped is going to be well above 250,000 per year. I don't buy it. And I know that's what Elon and Tesla have said, like, we're going to plan to make 250,000 units per year. I just don't see it. You have 1.5 million reservations. Yes, a percentage of them will go away for sure. But think about how long that backlog is going to take if 50% of them stay. That's at least a 3-year backlog. There's no way. There's just no way that they're only making 250,000. I think anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million Cybertrucks per year is much more realistic. And the speed at which they're going to get there is going to surprise a lot of people. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be so good. and think about just the mass of Cybertrucks that are going to be on the road now in 3 to 5 years. Talk about billboards. Everybody in the Tesla community always talks about this. Like the Cybertruck is the best marketing that Tesla is going to have. 100%. All the stuff that's been going on right now for the last few weeks and months with Elon being divisive on Twitter, and oh my God, the Tesla is the new MAGA hat, and all this garbage that I hear from folks, from that are trying to derail the story. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I think that the product speaks for itself, and Cybertruck's going to be just completely nuts. And people can call me a fanboy if they want, but them's are the facts. I don't know what to tell you.
100%. No, I love it. I mean, to me, it's like the F-150, the Ram 1500, and the Toyota Tacoma, I believe, or Tundra. That's the full size one. All three of those, at least prior to COVID, were pushing like 1 million vehicles a year. So if it just competes with those other three, that's 1 million a year. But I don't think the Cybertruck is going to compete. I think it's going to outperform all of those. So just like the Model Y, like I think people have been comparing it to like what the most common highest selling car, the Toyota Corolla, whatever. Like to me, the Y, the Cybertruck, the Roadster, even, I think those can triple the sales of that market or that segment because it's just so mind blowing and so awesome.
Yeah, and it's not just. I think it will blow out the category. It's not just a trucking category. A lot of people that have normal regular cars are now considering getting a Cybertruck because it's just cool. It's an iPhone moment. It's a completely different beast. So I think the market will be first much bigger. And then I think the market outside of the US, don't underestimate that. That would be huge if they would be able to tackle it. I think even here in Switzerland, there are so many like small businesses, gardeners, whatever, that already have pickup trucks from the US or Toyotas or whatever. And they would gladly buy a Cybertruck. And in Germany, France, the world is so big. So I think this could be easily a multi-million unit opportunity for Tesla. But I think for me personally, I think if they would be able to achieve 10,000 next year, more than 10,000 would be already a success. And then of course with an exponential ramp. But what do you guys think? What will be the biggest bottleneck? Will it be the body shop with the new steel exoskeleton, or will it be the 4680 ramp? What's your gut feeling?
That's an excellent question. I think the 4680, they're finally hitting strides and they'll be able to produce that earlier than the body. The GigaPress is its own thing. Like getting that worked out and 100% is going to be a challenge. But I think the exoskeleton and I don't really know if they've mass produced the exoskeleton yet either. So I think those two variables are huge challenges. I don't know, Farzad, maybe you have a different opinion of the exoskeleton.
I agree with you. No, they've never done anything like that before. Nobody has really. I mean, the only really companies that I know of that have done an exoskeleton are in aviation. I think Sandy Munro was talking about it a while ago. It's a brand new concept. I agree with you 100% there. I think it's going to be the manufacturing process of the body and sort of the new technologies they're using to put the body together. And I think, I mean, I hope 4680 ramp is figured out by then. You know, they've had a lot of milestones in the last few weeks, which is really good to see. I think 4680 has been a struggle for them for sure. It's been very, very technically difficult, but it does seem like I think there are 1,000 Model Ys per week of 4680 production right now. And I think by the time Cybertruck is figured out, as far as like, you know, you go through the production ramp process and you're, you know, making 5,000 a week, 10,000 a week, you know, for 5,000 a week, I guess would be their total capacity for Cybertruck, which again sounds so freaking low. I can't believe it's like 5,000 times 50 is 250,000 units a year. And that's what they think they're going to do. Like there's no way, but let's assume they get to 5,000 per week. It's probably going to take middle of 2024, late 2024. So that's a year and a half to 2 years of getting 4680 figured out. So I just don't see that as a bottleneck by that time. So for me, it's the production process, you know. But then within that production process too, you really think about it, there's not going to be that many steps. It's just going to it's getting those steps right. Those few steps correct is going to be the biggest bottleneck. What do you think, Remo? What do you think the bottleneck is going to be?
Yeah, I think I agree. But yeah, if we really think about the 4680, I mean, it's been now almost 3 years, or has it already been 3 years since the announcement? So it's certainly been a struggle. And I think they're still struggling, like getting to real volume. I mean, it's already great, the volume that they have now, but I also am optimistic that they will figure it out. But yeah, I'm sure there will be many more problems that are unforeseen as with any such endeavor. So, but yeah, Tesla is really good at figuring it out, being resourceful, and I think they're not stupid, right? I mean, they are now already preparing the production process. That they are not sitting idly and staring into the air, right? So I think they're already working on it. They're already basically figuring it out, and I think that's also a good thing. To have now a little bit more time to give the 4680 cells time to get to volume, and to also think about potential other bottlenecks. So maybe they will completely surprise us and they will be able to hit 50,000 next year. Who knows? I mean, the Model Y also ramped super fast, faster as we all expected. So maybe if all goes right, it could also be a very positive surprise.
100%. Yeah, I think once they figure out the physical, you know, the gigapress and the exoskeleton, then we're going to come back to the issue that Tesla's going to have like in the mid-decade, which is the battery production and getting that off to scale. And that's why on the last Twitter Spaces, the Corpus Christi location announcement around the lithium refinery is a huge deal to me and super interesting. I was also curious. I know you mentioned, Remo, in Switzerland and Europe, obviously they want like a smaller size Cybertruck. The nickname that has stuck to me, I don't know if it would stick everywhere else, is like the Wolverine, right? So like the smaller truck size. But I wonder, like worldwide, how much more that truck would sell versus the Cybertruck. Because for me, like in America, obviously we want bigger, better, you know, trucks. In Texas, like I think it's 1 out of every 3 trucks or 1 out of every 3 cars sold in Texas. At least I heard that once. I don't know if it's true, is a truck. So yeah, I'm curious to see like worldwide, if there is a Wolverine type truck, like what the sales will be with that. And if it'll be similar to like when they went from the Model 3 to the Model Y or what have you, like that incremental improvement within the same kind of class of car, what that will look like.
And I also don't think it needs to be so much smaller. So I think even the original Cybertruck, if they could get it approved, I don't know what the regulations are here in Europe, whether they could even get it approved. I think that there were some comments into that direction that it would have to be a little bit smaller, but not maybe that much, maybe 5% or so. I think Elon said at one point. So I think that already would sell a lot of units, I think. But I think that's a general question that I am starting to ask myself. Maybe I'm diverting now, but maybe we can come back to that topic later. Like when Tesla wants to achieve 20 million cars, like in 10 years, whether they wouldn't need like more designs and more form factors per segment to like cater to all of the different desires of people and tastes of people. and I think that certainly would fit into a Cybertruck as well, right? So to fulfill all the different use cases like camping and small businesses and whatnot, I think a little more variety wouldn't hurt long term. Of course, short term they have way too many fish to fry, and it will of course sell out all of the units they will produce. But I think longer term, when you think about 10 million, 15 million, 20 million units, I would love to see like a platform with many different designs and basically form factors on top of it, because I think the one thing that legacy auto companies have working for them are their brands and their designs, and that will be basically the last value that they will be able to provide. Everything else will be a commodity, and I would love to see Tesla somehow incorporate that to build more variety, because you don't want to see 5 million Cybertrucks that all look the same. It will get really boring at one point, I think.
So I would challenge that point. I would challenge that point, because I think the only reason there is that variety is because there's zero differentiation between every single legacy car maker. They all make the same shit. They really do. I mean, if you really think about it, it's all the same experience. It's all the laggy accelerator. There's no real software in the car, and so it's all these little details, right? It's like what happens in a curve of innovation is the steepest part is when you're really changing the value paradigm. So the value paradigm has to change first before we get there. So the way I think about it is once over 50% of the fleet of all vehicles on the planet are this new paradigm, that's when you'll start seeing that differentiation. But I think that's going to take 20 years. I believe this is how I'm thinking about it. And so if the net cost per mile of a transportation vehicle, in this case an electric vehicle, is going to be, say, half of its counterpart, like if you put Cybertruck versus an F-150 or a Ram 1500, the cost per mile for that car is probably going to be less than half, because you're not paying for ridiculous amounts of gas, and your car ain't going to break. It's just not going to break. So then you don't have any maintenance costs or anything like that. So as long as that is the prevailing factor, differentiation doesn't matter, because that is what wins, period. And so people, I think, will forego, well, it doesn't have this cool little form factor, or it doesn't like meet my 20% criteria, when the 80% is so overwhelmingly so much more. How can I say this? It's so much better. I don't think differentiation in that respect matters. And I think so then for me, 2 to 3 million Cybertrucks, 3 to 5 million Model Ys, 10 million robotaxis / compact cars, 2 million vans, you're basically almost there, right? So you're already at 20 million. That's how I think it's going to play out. And then the net number of vehicles that will be sold, because your cost per mile effectively is half or less, should balloon from 1 million cars per year to 100 million cars per year to 200 million cars per year, 300 million cars per year, because now you're creating the affordability. It's much more affordable, so way more people are going to be able to buy and own a car, which completely flips the equation of what it means to be a car buyer instead of a public transport person, or somebody who has to carpool, or who can't afford a car, or who would rather have Uber. And then we're not even layering on the full self-driving thing, right? So like that's another just complete cluster insaneness that's going to happen. So that's how I think about it, because ultimately people value privacy the most, I think. I don't think if people had an option of owning a car that would cost the same as, say, riding a bus or a taxi, 100% of those people, I think, will own a car. Maybe 90%, because maybe some people don't want to deal with the car. But if you have the ability to have privacy when you're traveling around, why wouldn't you take it? And especially if it gets you there faster and safer than anything else, right? That's how I think about it. Sorry, another long answer to your question. It's just there's just so much there, you know? Yeah.
And it probably will be completely irrelevant, right? Because I'm starting to think about how will Tesla look in 10 years, right? Because right now it's like more a premium brand. It has like this flashiness to it. It's scarce. Not many people own it. But what happens if like 3/3 of a city are all Teslas, right? It will get boring. It will get commoditized, which doesn't mean that the economics need to get commoditized. Of course, it will be killer economics, especially when we think about robotaxis. So I think in the end, in a world with robotaxis, everything that counts is cost per mile, right? And I think then probably the whole design and form factor thing probably won't even be as important anymore. I totally agree with your points. I was just thinking ahead, how will Tesla transition from like more premium brand image to like a commoditized world where we see Teslas everywhere?
Yeah, I don't think the premium brand image is premeditated by Tesla. I think that the premium brand image is like just how it's just a cost curve. You know? So I think as long as Tesla makes everything more affordable, the image will immediately switch over. And that's like the what's most interesting about the whole Tesla dynamic right now, because literally they're the only mass market electric vehicle maker. There's no other mass. Well, one can make the argument for BYD, but a lot of their sales. Well, BYD. I'll make BYD a mass market EV vehicle maker for sure. I would. But Tesla makes 30% margins. BYD makes 5% margins, right? So that's like a completely different equation. So Tesla inherently is, to me, a mass market, everyday, every man's people car who hasn't gotten to the bottom yet. Or like that price bucket yet, but they're coming. It's coming down, and so the function of that curve is going to define the however people look at it, and it will just transform over time. It's just get the cost down. That's all they got to do. Just get the cost down. Yeah, that's how I think about it anyway.
I was trying to, while you guys were talking, I was getting distracted and I was trying chat GPT.
How dare you?
I was trying to figure out volume wise, like if you look at the width, length, and height of a F-150 versus like a Ford Ranger. So those are the like mid-size versus full-size class. I couldn't find the exact answer here, even with chat GPT, but an F-150 is 230 inches by 98 inches by 75-ish. And then a Ford Ranger is a little smaller at 210 inches by 73 by 70 inches tall. So I was trying to like volumetrically calculate what the difference is between the two, but I'm not smart enough at this point without a
just
proper
times
calculator.
Those three numbers, times those three numbers together for each one, and then divide one into the other, and it tells you.
Okay, so I did that, and it was so it was $1 million for the Ranger-ish, and then 1.7 million for the F-150. So I guess volumetrically, whatever 1.7 is to 1 is the ratio.
Right, exactly. You got it.
Cool.
So you would do one divided by 1.7, and it tells you what the percent reduction, and it's like what, 35%, something like that.
1.7.
More.
Oops.
40%.
1 divided by 1.7.
So from a value perspective, it's 40%
like
of
50. Yeah.
Yeah. So 40% less
total volume. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Somebody smarter than me.
Math lesson.
Yeah, there you go.
my degree came in handy. Wow, look at this. Yeah. Let me hit a topic before we go. Maybe we'll do some questions back from y'all. There is the IRA tax credit that came out for that's going live in January of 2023 in the United States. Something, I don't know if you guys saw, but they released the actual trim levels that are going to fall in it's government at work.
It's so stupid.
Producer wife, go ahead and pull up the link for the IRS tax credit. Yes, thank you. So this one's perfect. And then there's another link as well, if you can stage it, where it also has the Ford. It's the IRS link. So this is from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service of the United States, where they are defining which Tesla vehicles for 2023 are going to be eligible for the $7,500 tax credit. And here's the list. And the broader definitions that, and this is for Tesla specifically, there's other brands, and I'm going to have producer wife bring it up in a second here. So there's a price cap for the cars for you to be for someone to be able to get the $7,500 credit. And for the Tesla cars, here's how they have it defined. There's a separation between sedan and SUV. Sedans is up to a $55,000 MSRP, and SUVs and I believe pickup trucks is up to $80,000 MSRP. So the thing that sticks out here, which is odd, the Tesla Model 3, fine, $55,000. The Tesla Model 3 long range, 55,000. And then you also see Tesla Model Y 7-seat variants. You have 3 rows, 80,000. Nice. 80,000 for the long range. Nice. 80,000 for the performance, 7-seat. Nice. But then you get to the Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive 5-seat variant. It falls under the sedan category of 55,000. So that car is not categorized as an SUV. Neither is the Tesla Model Y long range or the Model Y performance, the 5-seat variants. So the IRS, and I've been trying to research this. I'm like, why wouldn't a 5-seat SUV be categorized as an SUV? So, and apparently it's something to do with weight. So I think the way the IRS is they're saying is like it has to be over 6,000 pounds of curb weight gross to be categorized as an SUV. And I'm like, okay, so you are decentivizing automakers to build an efficient EV. Got it. That makes sense. So go ahead and pull up the sarcasm, by the way, for those that maybe didn't catch that. Go ahead and pull up the link, producer wife, for the IRS. So this is for all the automakers that have submitted a form so far to the United States. Go to General Motors real quick because I want to read this message for y'all. This manufacturer has entered into a written agreement with us to become a qualified manufacturer, but hasn't yet submitted a list of specific makes and models that are eligible. Please check back here for updated information. So Mary, good job, Mary. Well done. So go ahead and click on Ford Motor Company. Once again, producer wife, if you don't mind. This is like, I want to highlight this because it's so weird. So the Escape plug-in hybrid, 80,000. The Ford E-Transit, 80,000. The Ford F-150 Lightning, 80,000. The Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is an SUV, 55,000. Right? So this is not just a Tesla thing. It's an everybody thing, which opens up a lot of different questions, right? Because the Ford Mustang Mach-E that is now getting a $7,500 credit starting in January 1st is no longer going to get the $7,500 credit. But if you buy a Model Y 7-seat variant, it's going to get a $7,500 credit, which puts the Mustang Mach-E at a gigantic disadvantage, right? But then the 5-seat Model Y doesn't get it, which like makes no sense. I'm just so confused by this whole thing. But anyway, what do you guys think about this? Are you guys, how do you think this is going to impact demand? In the comments section, I would love to hear your opinions as well. This is obviously a net positive for Tesla, and I feel really bad for the third row supplier for Tesla because they're going to get absolutely hammered. So RIP, third row supplier. But what do you guys think? How are you guys taking these news?
Well, the first question I have for you, and I don't know if you know this answer, but so what's the total weight difference between a 7-seater and a 5-seater Model Y then? Is it really...
It would have to be more than 300 pounds or 250 pounds because I believe the Model Y gross weight, if I remember correctly, is 57 something.
That's shocking to me, by the way. That seems like a lot for a couple seats, though. I don't know that it really pushes it over the limit there.
I agree. It's weird. It's really weird. Somebody in the comments let us know if we're thinking about this correctly because I've been trying to figure out why the hell, like... Yeah, go ahead.
So for the 5-seater, what Tesla should do is sell it with a weight set. So not only do you get the 5-seater, but you get a workout set that you can like take home and that be part of the package, which then puts it above the weight. No, they shouldn't do that. I don't know why this is bizarre to me. I don't know. I don't have much else on that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Remo.
Yeah, I think generally this is really, really good news. I haven't looked too much into it because it's US specific. Is there some kind of unit limit, or how does it work, or is there a time limit for this incentive? Could you maybe explain it for the international audience?
For sure, yeah. So as far as I know, this bill has 0 unit limits, and I think it's going to go for at least 10 years. I don't know if there's actually a time cap, but it's basically in perpetuity for a long time. And what's going to happen as the time progresses, and in the comment section, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off memory here. As you go, like say closer to 2024 and 2025 and 2026, there's more and more restrictions and a lot more bias towards ensuring as much of the supply chain is built in America versus internationally. And so if, for example, if you have all your battery manufacturing in the States. I believe most, if not all, of your supply comes from the United States, and you use labor in the United States to put it together. Then you take advantage of the full $7,500 credit. Whereas over time, if more and more of your supply chain is overseas, then you get less of that $7,500 credit over time. So the thought process here is we need to incentivize electric vehicle manufacturing in the United States as much as possible, which I actually really like. I think that's a brilliant move from a standpoint of making the United States, given an incentive to ensure that you secure as much of the supply chain as possible in the United States. But the weird thing is, again, like these sort of definitions, these seemingly arbitrary definitions around what is an SUV and what is a sedan, that is causing some issues. But here's the thing that I don't think anybody I saw somebody on Twitter say this. What Tesla could do in this situation to take advantage of the credit next year is that they could just offer a $55,000 Model Y long range, like actual body, but then cap it to like 100 miles and then do an upgrade to get you back to that 300-mile range, and then just make up the difference after the purchaser buys it. And Tesla is the only one that can do that. Tesla is the only one that can do that out of all the manufacturers. So they have ways to take advantage of the credit. And I believe they did this before in another market as well. I think it was China, where they offered a car that was like gimped to try and take advantage of the credit. And then once the purchaser buyer and they got the $7,500 credit, then they were just able to use that money to get additional range. It's like brilliant. So there's a lot of things Tesla could do to take advantage of the credit, but it's just the definitions are odd. But it's for perpetuity, goes forever.
And I wonder if Ford will follow suit with the Mach-E, because that sounds like a good workaround until they figure out a way to squash that too. But
yeah, but can Ford do over-the-air updates for range updates? I know they can do over-the-air updates.
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably not. But it would be interesting if they could.
Yeah. They did it in Canada, is what the comments are saying. They did that trick in Canada for the range. Yes, I think the bill is great. I think, Remo, you're right. I think the bill overall is a great idea. I think it's going to be great over time for the United States to secure as much supply chain as humanly possible. And my gut tells me some of those definitions are going to get amended. I just something tells me that by the time this thing goes live and like on Monday or Tuesday, they're going to come out and say, oh wait, sorry, no, these are SUVs, because it's just like you're kind of screwing over Ford a little bit here, y'all. Like, it's not fair. Like it is an SUV, yeah, it's a small SUV, but it's an SUV. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. What do you guys want to talk about?
Also, maybe the hybrid thing needs to be maybe thought through again. I mean, I don't really see the point in allowing those incentives for hybrids, especially for really small battery packs and hybrids. And I really think if we, just looking out for 2023, with now a looming recession and all these things, I just think the Cybertruck, all those things that we talked about, now this $7,500 incentive. I mean, Tesla will be absolutely sold out. And I just don't see any reason why this story won't continue and even get better. So I'm as bullish as ever. And I really think it's the perfect timing now for this incentive to go live, because it will dampen the blow from a potential recession. And of course, people will put away big investments, and this will be an incentive to rethink that and maybe pull that a little closer and then spend the money. So I think overall it's really bullish for Tesla, and I hope that all these things, hybrids and stuff, will be sorted out over time.
Couldn't agree more.
If you look at the incentive that Tesla just pulled with, like, offering a $3,750 discount and now a $7,500 discount, right? Just to give people that early incentivization right before the new year. Like, that basically tells us that there's demand there that's just waiting for the price to change a little bit, right? So as this $7,500 credit in America happens, that same thing's going to happen, and then demand is going to take off again, I think. And then it's a question of if the supply system can kind of re-leverage or re-level itself, and if Austin can produce more cars, which it has been, right? It's been slowly ramping up. Like, basically the volume is going to go up, and the EV incentive is going to help with that profit margin, and it's all looking positive for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So somebody in the comments said that Volkswagen ID4 is like gets the credit, but it's smaller than a Model Y, and it's a 5-seater. So the 2023 Volkswagen ID4 all-wheel drive Pro gets the 80,000, but it's cubically smaller than the Model Y, and it's a 5-seater. It's not a 7-seater. So that's the kind of shit I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, it makes no sense.
So maybe the all-wheel drive Pro is 6,000, and so weight is the only way they're determining this.
It's got to be.
Yeah,
It's got to be. Stupid. So stupid. But like this is the kind of like this is the wrong incentive.
Yeah.
Make your car heavier. Yeah, make your car heavier, and then you get oh, sorry, oh, you're not as good at building an EV. Oh, sorry, here's $7,500. What the? Sorry. What do you guys want to ask? Go ahead, pick a topic before I start going on a freaking rant.
I was gonna go on the rant with you.
Okay, seriously, like it. Anyway, they'll get it fixed, I'm sure. We'll do about let's do 30 more minutes. If you guys have any questions you want to propose, go for it, and then we'll save the last 10 minutes for some Q&A with the comments section. And then after that, we'll go and go to our private Discord to continue the discussion with our community members. If you do want to be part of these panels and also be part of the private Discord where we have a ton of awesome conversations, consider becoming a patron or signing up through YouTube right below this link. If you like this hoodie, merch store in the description as well. And thank you all for the 946 viewers we have right now. We're an hour in. Thank you all very much. Like and subscribe. Boom. Woo, woo. Woo, woo. Yeah, what's on your guys' mind? What are you thinking about? What would you guys like to talk about?
Well, I'm kind of curious. Remo, am I pronouncing your name right? I just want to start there. And then can you tell us a little more about like what your channel covers and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a reaction channel because I really had to react to a really badly informed Tesla video. That's how my channel started. Then I did a lot of supercuts. I tried to get the information out of earnings calls and clubhouses and things like that. And right now I'm really passionate about like things that transform the world and disrupt the world. So I'm right now covering Tesla, Bitcoin, and also minimalism, because I really love lifestyle and how to live a simpler life, how to get to peace of mind. That's what I'm really passionate about. So these are the three main topics. And I do everything. I do long form interviews. I did one with Farsad. I did one with Alex Vogt, 4 hours on the German car industry. So if you're interested about how Volkswagen works and all of that good stuff, Alex is the absolute expert, and 4 hours great content on my channel. And that's basically I'm just following my interests and documenting what I'm doing.
That's awesome. I'm actually going to have Alex on the channel on Monday too, so I'm excited to talk to him for the first time.
Fantastic.
I love his especially with the stuff. I think Volkswagen recently came out with their cutting guidance of earnings for 2023 in half. They're giving like a warning. So I don't know. That could be a red flag.
that might be a good next subject to talk about, because Farzad put out a video about GM and Ford and their financial projections and their cash flows.
Yeah.
Just, like, not to take away from that video, but I was kind of curious, like, were you able to calculate any sort of runway, or like, is there any way of knowing when a company has that negative cash flow, like, as far as like their bankruptcy time frame? That's my question, I guess.
No, for sure. So the cash flow statement is the best way to get that. And I love to hear the comment section also give their 2 cents here, because there are many different ways to do it. So the one thing I've come to grips with, and I was when I first started really studying companies and looking at cash flow statements and profit and loss statements and balance sheets, I was like, oh, there's one way to look at this, and I have to trust the experts on Wall Street to tell me. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just need to sit down and just use some common sense and logic and look at the cash flow statement and see how the business is utilizing the cash that's coming into the business. It's that simple. And there's like 4 primary ways, if you look at legacy auto, that these companies use and receive cash. there's from operations, which is basically selling the vehicles. You have the investing line, which is the money that they spend or get from the investments they've made in the business. Then you have the financing line, which is the money they spend or get from providing loans and leases to customers. And then you got the exchange rate, which is basically the impact you get from converting the US dollar to a different currency. And if you have unfavorable rates, you lose money. If you get favorable rates, you earn money, essentially, right? So what's becoming very obvious to me is that as you go into a recession, what's going to end up happening is as people in a recession, less people will be able to afford their bills, which means you're going to have more defaults on your loans. And so, what that happens to a company like GM or Ford or any other legacy automaker that offers loans and leases to customers is that the cash they would have gotten from these loans and leases, it starts going down. And a huge percentage of these companies' business is tied to that financing arm. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is, if you look at the cash flow from operations for, say, a Ford and GM as an example, GM, I think, if I remember my numbers correctly, made about $5 billion in cash from operations that it went to the bank account from January through September of 2022. And I think Ford was a little bit closer to 10. I may have gotten them confused, right? So in an environment where, and this is on a fixed cost basis. So what this means is that when you have a factory, you have a factory that you're paying for if you're leasing it or renting it from somebody. Then you have all the equipment that you're paying loans and, sort of paying for over time, or unless you pay them in full, great, but that's not usually the case. You have a ton of labor and you have a bunch of other things that are fixed, right? And so if the number of units you're pushing through that factory goes down because of recession, or say the EV tax credit kicks in and it pulls the gas cars away from that fixed cost, you're not going to make as much cash coming into that factory because it's all dependent on how many units you can push out. Because you're still going to need the same number of people to run that factory, right? It's not like you could reduce shifts, but the complexity becomes is that you still have the same equipment and you still have the same building. So it's all based on how many units you push through. So as those units come down, the cash you're going to get from operations for that part of the business will go down with it as well. And when you have a huge financing arm that's going to start defaulting because of a recession, and when you have incentives that are pulling away demand from the thing that's actually making you money, which is the gas car, you have an utter disaster in your hands, because the things that you're depending to bring cash into your business both of them are going down, right? And then you look at the income from operations that these guys make, it's about 4%. Ford and GM, 4 to 5% of the money they make from their businesses goes to their bottom line as profit. So the slightest bit can change and make that zero. And as soon as they hit zero on that, for every car they sell, they're losing money. They lose money, right? And so depending how much money they lose from each car they sell will tell you what the runway is. And you look at the cash flow from operations to figure that out, okay? So it will tell you, look at the cash flow from operations for the last 9 months, divide it into the number of cars they've sold, and then it tells you, for every car they sell, they lose this much in cash, right? And there was one other point I wanted to make that was really big, and I completely blanked on. But that's basically that's one way of trying to track how cash flow impacts. It's impossible to tell what the runway is going to be until you actually start tracking into the next quarters how those companies are going to perform. But when quarter one that's coming up here in 2023 is already seasonally the worst quarter for auto, and then you're layering on top of that a recession, and then you're layering on top of that an EV tax credit that's going to be pulling away the profitable part of the business. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. And VW coming out and providing 50% less guidance for 2023 is a giant red flag for that industry. I really think so. And it's just all culminating to what's probably going to be an epic fall of epic proportions in the coming, say, 12 to 18 months. It's going to suck. It's going to suck really bad. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if you came across this, but one of the first videos I was a part of within the Tesla community was for the Zach and Jesse Now You Know channel. And I basically wanted to chart and figure out what everybody's predictions were. So how many what the commitment was for GM and Ford and the other manufacturers around electric vehicles, like how many they were hoping to produce by what year. And so I was trying to track and figure out the data for all that. And I noticed that when I went back through all the earnings statements and the statements that they put out, that they basically changed the format of how they presented their data. And to me, it seemed like they were manipulating their numbers to make it look like they're doing better than they were. Did you notice that too when you were doing your research?
Yeah, companies do that all the time. That's not just legacy. That's like every company ever. Like
Yeah.
the last thing you want to do as a company is to make your numbers look as bad as they are. That's not in the best interest of you as a company, because like if this is where guidance is very it's like when a company guides for the negative, it's actually way worse than it seems, because it takes so much for a company to guide to the negative, because companies spend so much time, like you said, making their numbers look better than they actually are. Like nobody wants to be the guy that comes out as like, hey, we actually kind of suck. Because what does that mean? You lose your job and you lose your source of income and you lose the status, right? So for a company to guide to the downside is a really big deal. I don't want to I can't understate this enough. Yeah. So, but it happens all the time. It's not unique to those guys. And that's so. The one thing that I've noticed in GM's statement as an example is that they track how many cars in inventory there are for cars they sell to dealerships, right? And if those numbers go up over time, and then the relative amount of cars they sell equals that increase, that means that people are not buying they're not selling more cars. They're just stuffing the channel. They're just putting more cars into dealerships. So that's one thing to really look out for if you really want to pay attention to these and I encourage every single person that's watching this video to do the same if you're really interested to see how legacy auto is going to perform. I know GM shows those dealership numbers. Take the difference of how much their inventory grew in dealerships and how many cars they sold this quarter versus last quarter. And if that difference is the same number that the inventory went up, more people are not buying cars. They're just stuffing the channels. They're just stuffing the channel. They're just moving cars from one place to another, and they're saying, "Yep, we sold more," but not really. They're just moving it from one place to another.
Yeah, I think that's why people have been so sensitive around Tesla's production rate versus the sales rate or what have you, like how many cars they delivered versus the cars they produced, because they're looking at that traditional system and seeing, Ford or GM producing and then basically oversupplying their dealers, and then their dealers are forced to basically discount because when they have that car on the lot, it costs them money, right, to have it there and to take up inventory space or what have you. So
yeah,
I think that's the misconception that often happens with Tesla too around inventory.
That's right. Yeah, and you think about like what these automakers are doing too. They're building inventory with a more expensive car that's going to go depreciate in price as deflation kicks in or the recession kicks in, and as more people bias towards an EV versus a gas car. That $7,500 tax credit for the EV is also a $7,500 depreciation on the gas car, because you can buy the better technology at cheaper relative to the one that's going out. And so what does that do to the inventory that's sitting in dealers? It automatically drops by $7,500 for every car that would have been purchased with an EV versus that car. This is a disaster. It's a disaster. And but it's going to take time. It's going to take time to play out. These are the things that like take 12 months, 18 months to work into the supply chain, into the system, right? And as the Fed, here's another. And as the Fed keeps raising rates, it becomes more expensive to buy a car. It gets more expensive to lease a car. I don't know, bro. And of course, it's going to impact EVs as well. Nobody's spared. But if the EV tax credit is going to soften the blow or negate the blow of people not being able to afford a car and the interest rates going up, but the IRA cancels that out, then really who's going to buy? What are the cars that are going to be bought? It's going to be EVs. It's not going to be gas cars. It's going to be EVs. Sorry. I've been talking a lot this podcast. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm worked up.
There's only 3 of us. Remo, you got to talk for the last 15 minutes, okay? You got this.
Yeah, I just have a question. The IRA, does this override all the old incentive systems? Yes. with the limit? So actually, it's a benefit it's an advantage for Tesla, right? Because Tesla
100%
ran out of the old system. A lot of other car companies still had some quota there, and that's basically now canceled, right? So it evens the playing field, and I think it's a huge advantage for Tesla, because as you guys said, the EVs for the legacy car companies are not as profitable, if profitable at all, right? So it's a huge advantage. So now the old car companies will have to shift revenue to the less profitable cars, and Tesla can just supercharge their demand and keep going. So I just don't see any. I just don't see any point why this should be good news for any other than Tesla, to be honest.
And the one that gets the most screwed over is the Ford Mach-E, to be completely honest. Because the Ford Mach-E right now, if you buy it before the end of the year, it can take advantage of a $7,500 tax credit because it's a legacy tax credit. If it's being dealt as a sedan, if it's being viewed as a sedan, it loses $7,500 tax credit, and its direct competitor in the Model Y gains a $7,500 tax credit. So there is a $15,000 difference now between a Model Y and a Mach-E come January 1st. This is catastrophic, and they're already not making money on the Mach-E, you know? And then they have the F-150 Lightning, so that could hopefully bring him a lot of money. But the F-150 Lightning is going to eat into the F-150 gas car that makes them all the money. It's a catastrophe. Ford, like, I feel for Jim Farley, because Jim Farley is a great guy. I really feel like, and they have a really, I like when they interview with Sandy Monroe, they came across as very well-meaning, like people that wanted to make a great product, and they're taking the plunge on EVs, and I commend Ford. But this setup couldn't be any worse for them. It kind of really sucks and I feel for them. Unless they can get that tax credit again for the Mach-E. If they can't, I don't know, man. Ford is, oh boy. Yeah, Ford is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it basically forces their hand into the EV play. And to them, they're already kicking and screaming and not wanting to move into that. And Ford obviously is different than, say, like a GM or a Toyota, because if you look at the relationship from EV cars for GM specifically, they had the EV1, right? And then Toyota, they actually had partnerships with Tesla, who were producing motors and other parts, components for the RAV4 EV. So like both of those legacy automakers basically had chances to go electric before this incentive, and they missed their opportunity, whether they just didn't see it as a viable option or somehow they got strong armed by the oil, companies or what have you. They just didn't do what they could have done. And now I think we'll see how it plays out. This might hurt them.
Yeah, man. Let's do some Q&A. What do you guys think? Should we do some questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Producer wife, hit us with the song and hit us with some Q&A. She will only pick the best ones, as we say, only the best comments, but all the comments are the best ones. So yeah, when you get a chance, producer wife, start bringing up some questions. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. We'll do another 10 minutes or so of Q&A. And then after we wrap up here, we'll go to our private Discord and continue our conversation there. Danish, thank you very much for the question. Would the EV incentive contribute to inflation more? Is it really necessary? Very good question. Let's see. So it's lowering the net price of the product, right? But it's also adding additional demand. But then it's theoretically replacing the gas car with that car at a lower price. So it really becomes a question of how much additional demand is that going to cause versus what it's offsetting. And if the net number of dollars that are spent on the EV is higher than the net number of dollars lost from the gas car, theoretically, it will add to inflation. But in a recession, that could not be the case, right? So there's a lot of, it's hard to tell. That's one of the ones we're going to have to wait and see what the lagging indicators say. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, when the government incentivizes something, they're basically taking on some of the financial burden of that, meaning the government is spending money on something. I don't know if government spending necessarily equals inflation unless that money is printed by the government or made up like in place of money. So directly, no, but indirectly, it could be.
Remember, what do you think?
Yeah, that's also a question that I ask myself is how is this incentive financed? I haven't looked it up in detail. And yeah, the question is, will this investment like really be productive and fruitful? And yeah, the question is, will it be unlimited? And then in effect, it will just be like the government will be like a co-buyer, right, of the car. And if it's indefinitely, then it's basically will be an indefinite co-buyer. So I definitely, of course, the spending will increase, or taxes revenue will reduce. But generally, I see more a driver towards deflation, just with digitization, automation, robotization, etc. So I think inflation shouldn't be a problem long term, in my opinion.
I also think that as soon as the Republican Party takes office again at some point in the future, that's probably one of the first things they're going to do is cut this bill.
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Why do you think Elon's playing nice with them?
That's true. That's true. I just think that generally speaking, the Republican Party doesn't want government spending, and they can see this as government spending. Yeah. But I could be wrong.
As long as it's like not tied, as long as it's not tied to, say, national security, because one of the arguments I would make, and this is like not becoming a politics discussion, is that this is good for national security because you are insourcing all supply for the next generation of transportation.
That's a great point. Absolutely.
Yeah. Next question. But I love that sort of viewpoint too. Now we know why Elon's a Republican now. Cash King, question. We all know Tesla is the #1 EV company. Who will be the #2 EV in America? Great question. What do you guys think?
Does that mean American companies? Like in America is probably,
I think #2 EV, yeah, like brand in America. Like net number of units sold.
I think it's going to be a Chinese brand. NIO, BYD.
I agree. What do you think?
Yeah, or Hyundai maybe. From all the legacy ones, maybe Hyundai has the best chance to survive and thrive somewhat. But other than that, I would say BYD or a Chinese startup. Yeah.
Hopefully Aptera, because I pre-ordered one of those too.
The complexity with Hyundai is that they're manufacturers in South Korea, so they can't even take advantage of the EV tax credit. So that's going to put them at a huge disadvantage. Near term, I would say for the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be anybody who's able to localize the supply chain and manufacture in the United States will be the automatic #2, as long as they can take advantage of the EV tax credit and they can ramp. But I think long term, it's probably going to be a Chinese company, if I were to guess.
So here's a quick question based off of this one. So if the cash flow, like if they're not profitable making EVs, like any car maker, then either they need to have government backing or institutional funding of some sort, right, to back up.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something to look for, to think about as well.
100%. Next question. Great points. Earthmark, question. Why does nobody talk about semi? They are aiming for 500,000 semis at $200,000 equal $100 billion a year. I don't know if the 500,000 semi is correct. I know they're aiming for 50,000 semis, at least publicly. I can see them making 500,000 semis in the long term, but I think their public number is 50,000. I agree. The semi is not getting any attention, and I kind of like it that way. And that, like, this is the picture that I love about the semi. The Tesla semi is going to be used to deliver mega packs that are going to charge a Tesla semi. That's how game changing this thing is, right? Yeah. What do you guys think about the semi?
Yeah, it's definitely valued for sure. And that 500,000 number, I could also agree. I also could see that production swinging up to that number, but I don't think their projections are that yet. I think it's also the profit per kilowatt hour or what have you, because I think at volume pricing, the price per battery is less in a semi versus the other cars, and so they probably won't really ramp those up until later in the product chain.
Yeah, that's I think exactly the point. I think Tesla has no incentive right now to really push the semi because it's still somewhat cell constrained, right? And they can use the cells in higher cost products or make more revenue per kilowatt hour. So I think that's the main reason. And probably also the product also needs to evolve a little more iterations. But long term, I see a great future. I mean, we now had the same trucking technology for, 50, 100 years. And now we had the iPhone moment in trucking, in semis. So this will be an absolute game changer and will revolutionize the distribution business.
Couldn't agree more. I think the other piece too is that we had Brian from Next Big Future, Noah. That's his publication, I think. Next Big Future. He's been on the last couple panels, and the light bulb moment for me was the mega pack is directly tied to the semi, because the mega pack is needed to ensure that there's enough energy to be able to charge these semis. And so you're not really just buying a semi, you're buying semis with Megapack. And Megapack probably has 60, 70, 80% margins. So look out. Next question. Rich B, question. Is 2023 the year that Tesla Megapack going to be added? Look at this. Into its valuation. I think there's a chance because energy has been under the radar. And now that they're not supply constrained based on their guidance, we should see a lot more energy. But I don't know if 2023 is the year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, personally, I'd love to do a deep dive on energy. I really was somewhat disappointed in the past few years. Of course, the focus was on the auto business, ramping the 3 and the Y and the other programs. And I really would love to see what would happen if a Tesla could give it like everything it needs, all the cells and all the talent and everything, all the production capacity. Where could energy really go? And I'm super excited about Megapack, not only Megapack, but also the software side of it, right? The auto bidder. If we see what it has done in Australia, it's fantastic, it's mind-blowing. And I would really love to see the Megapack replacing old peaker plants like coal and gas peaker plants. But the question really is, again, the revenue per kilowatt hour, how does it look like in a Megapack compared with a car, for example? And then also, is it still cell constrained? And when will that be lifted? And once we are not cell constrained anymore, how fast they will be able to ramp the production. So a lot of questions, and I would love to do a deep dive on Tesla Energy with somebody who's really into it. But I'm super excited about it long term.
I think there's been less conversation around Megapack than most other Tesla products as a whole. I think, and it's almost like the redheaded stepchild, where it's like we know it's there, but it's not talked about as much as we hoped it would be. But yeah. If it does what we know it can do, it's going to revolutionize a lot of things. But it also comes back to battery production and being cell constrained and seeing everything else lined up for that to take off the way we're hoping it will. Yeah,
I find it hard to believe that it wouldn't be more profitable per kilowatt, because the production, like just conceptually speaking, there aren't any moving parts. It's just a battery with a casing. And the most expensive part of it will be moving the thing around. But now all of a sudden you have the Tesla Semi and you vertically integrated the transportation of this product. So like, what really is the cost here? There's not really that much cost. There's so much potential here. Shout out redheads, by the way. Everybody. Redheaded stepchild. I don't mean it. Producer wife's like, excuse me? I don't mean it that way. Next one. Akira. It's probably in the private chat, like I'm going to kill you. A question. If the Tesla bot can eventually make us money by providing services to others, will wealth be determined based on who or which company owns the most Tesla bots? What a fascinating question. Why wouldn't it, right? Because that seems like the logical conclusion. How are you guys thinking about this?
This is a great question. I also think Tesla almost has a moral responsibility of who it licenses or gives its bots to, because if in this case, like, not only wealth can be made through Tesla bots, but power and dominance, for lack of a better term, can be made with Tesla bots.
Remy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the question generally is more like, how will the world and the economy look like when we have AI products like running around? I was now randomly watching some YouTube videos how to make money with ChatGPT. So you could basically go to Fiverr, get some get some jobs for texting or product descriptions, and ChatGPT can do it completely automatically. So it's a perfect way to make money with an AI. And I think the same question now comes with such a robot, right? What can it really do? And will there be limitations? Will there need to be terms of service that prohibits you from doing certain tasks? So I think there will be a lot of nuances how this product will be able to be used, and the rules. Also society-wise, what do we want such a world to actually look like? So for me, it's more a philosophical question, but it's a fantastic question. And I do agree that probably the companies that will have access first to such a technology will, of course, have a huge advantage.
Yeah. I think the chat GPT thing you just proposed is the perfect analogy. Why would anybody pay somebody on Fiverr to put something in GPT when they can just go to GPT themselves and do it for free? That's really how this Tesla bot equation is going to play out. As long as it doesn't fall in the hands of people who are monopolizing the technology. So that the technology has to be democratized, or it has to be in a way that is affordable by basically anybody who wants to use it. You know, like DALL-E is another example. DALL-E is like, I don't know, it's like less than $1 per, you're paying a graphic designer less than $1 to give you 8 different options for an idea. It has to be in that way. So then that type of cost structure is going to apply to anything physical. If the Tesla bot is successful, think about all the doors that open when you do that. As long as that technology can be leveraged in the same way ChatGPT and DALL-E are being used, which is extremely cheap, if not free, and anybody is able to use it. If that becomes the case, everybody has power. If only a couple companies have access to that technology, we're screwed. It's over, because it's just a flywheel that's going to keep feeding itself. And I have all the power, I have all the labor, and everybody's at the whims of what I can produce. I don't think that's the future that we want, and that's one we should avoid in all kinds of ways. And that's why I feel like Elon and his teams will do the best job to ensure a technology like this can be accessed by everybody, not just a few. And I'm crossing my fingers that that's the case. So, all right, let's wrap it up here and go to the private Discord. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Remo. Really appreciate you guys. Now we're going to move the next 45 minutes to an hour of discussion to our private Discord. If you want to take part of those discussions, consider becoming a patron or signing up right through YouTube using the join button down here somewhere. Any closing thoughts before we go to our private Discord, Noah or Remo?
Thanks for letting me talk so much about Cybertruck. It's been a lot of fun to dive into that. And these conversations have been awesome and fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about 2023. I think it will be a great year for Tesla. A lot of catalysts are coming up, Cybertruck, the Semi, and all of those things that we talked about, the incentive, the new incentive. So really great news to just keep executing. And I'm sure there will be a lot to talk about Tesla every day next year as well. So thank you for having me today, and it was a fantastic discussion. Absolutely.
Remo, make sure you look him up on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. He does amazing work. Noah, what are we plugging for you?
So I have a company called Corporate Stream, so we do live streaming. So if your company does any sort of communication, feel free to check me out on YouTube and reach out. But I'm just happy to be a part of the community. That's what it's more about for me.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate both of you so much. Thank you, everybody in the comments, for always having awesome discussion. Love you guys so much, seriously, especially as we end this year. Happy New Year, everybody. My goodness. I'm not going to see you again in a live stream until next year. Wow, what a funny joke. And of course, last but not least, thank you very much, producer wife. Another amazing job. And thank you so much for just letting me do this sometimes very weird thing that I can't believe I'm doing, and your support. I just love you so much. Thank you. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the private Discord. Thanks, everybody. Take it easy.